Hey, it's Ron McLean. Welcome to Hockey Talk on the Rock.
With Laura and Keith.
It's interesting.
So let's back up a second.
He played absolutely out of his mind.
It made no sense to me.
And now, here are your hosts.
Here we go. We are back doing Hockey Talk on the Rock, episode number 99, the Great One episode. It's been a couple weeks since we talked last. We last talked after the Horvat trade came down. The Canucks have won a couple and lost a couple. Beauvillier has looked pretty good playing for the Canucks. I think he's at 4 goals, 2 assists in 7 games, whereas Beau has, I think, 3 goals and 1 assist in 7 games with the Islanders. So
yeah, I mean, playing with Pettersson.
Yeah, early returns look good. And the Islanders are in a wild card spot, I believe, but Barzal is now out for a week.
Yeah. No, I think it's indefinite now, is what I've heard.
Oh, really?
It's bad. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Islanders, I feel like now that they've re-signed Beau, like, if they make the playoffs this year, like, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year, but I feel like that trade is more justified. Like, the Beauvillier part of it, the teams kind of knew from the beginning of the season if they wanted him, they could have him. There's a lot of talk about the value of wingers right now in the NHL, and it's not super high, which we'll get to in a bit with a specific trade. But I think Beauvillier, I said it right when they traded for him. I'm like, I'm not super impressed with his career stats, but I think playing for the Canucks, he'll put up more points. And if they put him with Pettersson, they'll put up more. And I really hope that next year they have the hindsight to, do something with him that's not necessarily lock him up long term. But I'm happy he's playing well. I think it's great he's playing well. We'll see if it carries over, kind of thing. The most important part of that trade is the first round pick. And the Islanders have the option, if it is in the top 12 this year, to roll it over to next year when it'll be unprotected, which obviously is very exciting for Canucks fans. So I think, if they miss, I will feel bad for Beau. But it will be very exciting to watch for the Canucks next year to follow how the Islanders do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm indifferent. I feel like I've just convinced myself that like the number 14 pick in this year's deep draft is probably going to be similar to like a 5 or a 4th overall next year. So,
but also too, like with Sorokin on that team, do you really like? I feel like the Islanders, if they like next year, yes, they're old. But I feel like he's enough of a bumper. They're never going to be like the lottery pick team kind of thing. But I don't know. Anyway, I agree with you, basically.
On the topic of the wingers, too, it's nice to see that like some players have taken a step forward under Tocchet, and Besser and Garland are 2 of the more noticeable ones, at least on the stat sheet.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps either allow the Canucks to justify holding on to them longer, not doing something stupid like trade for low or buy them out. Or increases their value enough to make a deal maybe worth it.
I really hope they don't buy out Garland. I think it'd be really stupid. It is what it is. You signed him to that deal, and he's looked a lot better under Tocchet, as you said, and it just feels like such a waste. If they do that trade goes down as the worst trade in Canucks history. Like, for me, I really think, I know Cam Neely trade is there, but just by how much they've handicapped themselves, if they buy out Garland, it's bad.
Pretty much the only get out of jail free card they can get now is if like OEL has like a career ending injury soon.
Which I honestly think is going to happen. And I feel awful saying it. I don't know if it's going to be within the next couple years, but I don't think he plays out the end of his contract. I don't see it. So yeah, it is what it is. It's an anchor on the team. I heard someone say that they thought that they were dangling Demko as like a sweetener in a Garland or in an OEL trade. And I'm like, there's no way that any team is going to have that cap space for Demko and OEL. And there's no way the Canucks would do it. Like, it's one thing to throw in the Islanders first, which I think would be bad enough. but there's just no way. It's not possible on any team, basically.
You think Demko plays a game again this year?
No, I think they shut him down. Although, actually, okay, I go back and forth because it sounds like it's not as serious as they originally said, but there are a lot of advantages, namely like what we saw in one of the trades this year, to having some cap space open on LTIR. And I have two thoughts about it. If the Canucks are serious about trading Demko, they should bring him back because he should play some games this year. And if his injury is not that serious, they should let him play some. And I'm not saying that they're going to trade him at the deadline. I don't think they do. There's not enough time. But if you want to showcase him that he's okay and you want to get him some games in, you play him. I think otherwise, maybe wait right till the end of the year and give him a couple games. But like, there's no point for him right now to be on this team, basically, with this defense. Although they did win, as you said, against your Flyers.
Yeah, that's not saying much.
Yeah.
Good though. It was a good game. So the trade deadline is what, 10 days out?
Yeah, we're under 2 weeks away now.
Yeah, 10, something like that. Anyways, so we've already talked about Luke Shenbuzz. It seems like the talk has moved from can he get a first instead of a second to they're hoping to get a third, and if they can't get a third, they'll just keep him and re-sign him. Which, whatever. I feel like they're going to be able to get either a late second or an early third.
Yeah, like the description that I heard was because in the Tarasenko trade that Mikkola went in, they gave up like a fifth to the Rangers, I think, to get Mikkola, or was it fourth?
There's a fourth, but it's a conditional that will become a third if they win a playoff round, I think it is.
So basically, people are saying that that's like the lowest possible bar because he plays the left side, unlike Shen, and he's a worse defenseman than Shen. So they should be able to get a third. I don't see how they don't.
And it sounds like this is one of those. They talk about it every year. They could trade him and then re-sign him in the offseason, but it sounds like this is like one of the more likely scenarios where that could happen. Yeah.
And I think that would be great. I really like Shen on the Canucks. I think he's been it's been good for him. It's been good for the team. It's been a really nice fit. And they need that voice, right? It's very clear they need a veteran voice like Shen in this room. But he's very valuable because of his deal and the position he plays and how well he's played in Vancouver. So I'm really hoping for the trade and sign in the summer. If it's a trade and then he goes somewhere else, I'm also happy for him. But I really hope that they're able to get an asset for him, just with how they need to build their farm system.
So recently they've been talking about Calgary's interest, but do you agree that it's still probably most likely between Toronto, Boston, and Tampa?
Yes.
I think so. I feel like Toronto's going to make a bit of a bigger move. Now that we'll get to the move they've already made, but I feel like now that they've made their move and they have a third centerman, I feel like Kerfoot's going to go in a deal to get them a defense, and with his $3.5 million going out the window, they can afford someone a little more than Shen,
Yeah, and basically, again, after what they did, it has to be money in, money out with that team. And so Kerfoot seems like the logical choice, as you said, to move. But maybe it's Justin Hall. Like, that's the other option, I think, for that team, if you can get an improvement on him for similar, which maybe would point back to Shen, because that would allow them to bring in him instead. But I agree. Basically, I agree. I think it's going to be Kerfoot out, and I think they go for a bigger defenseman. Like, people are saying Jake McCabe. That's the rumor. I could see it, but someone in that price range, if not him.
That would be tough because the rumor from McCabe is like his price is through the roof, like a first and a third or something.
Yeah, which is ridiculous,
and they've already shot their shot. So let's get into the two biggest trades that have happened, because there's been some minor trades.
Yeah.
But the first one was Tarasenko, and like you said,
Tyler Motte.
Nikola going from St. Louis to Toronto New York Rangers for a first, a conditional fourth, and Sammy Blais. And was that it?
I think that's it. And as you said, the fourth is essentially a third, because
Yeah.
the Rangers are gonna make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was
So
because there's a minor league player in there too, but he sounds like he's not gonna play NHL.
and the Blues retained on Tarasenko to make that happen. So like you said, the value of wingers is down. St. Louis could afford to retain the money. They got a first. I think it was a smart move for them, for someone that they were going to let Seattle claim in the expansion draft for free like a year and a half ago. To get a first rounder in a deep draft was probably a really good move for them.
I was really surprised, to be honest, with the return for Tarasenko, and I know they retained, and that is again why they got that. But he hasn't had a good year. He has a history of being a very, very good goal scorer in this league, but he is a winger. He's one-dimensional essentially in his role, and they were able to get a lot for him. So good for them. I also think for the Rangers it's a very good fit. Like Panarin and him are buddies, right? And the rumor is that he tried to get Panarin to sign with St. Louis when he was coming over from Russia, and he ultimately chose to sign with Chicago. And after watching like the Canucks played the Rangers a couple of games in the last couple of weeks here, since Tarasenko's been there, he looks like a good fit on that team. He looks like a Ranger. I don't know how else to say it. Like he really fits as someone who would have played with the Rangers. So I think it's good for them, but I ultimately think that the Blues probably win the trade just with the market.
Yeah, I'd give the Blues the win. Do you think that Tarasenko is a rental purely, or do you think he resigns?
I think he's a rental. I
think so too. So then the next St. Louis Blues big move they made was on Friday night, or maybe Friday midday. I don't remember. They shipped off Ryan O'Reilly and Noel Acciari, or Ashari, however you want to say it, to the Leafs. Minnesota brokered the deal, took 25% of O'Reilly's contract for a 4th-round pick, which is just smart business, which Minnesota surprised me because they're cap strapped, but whatever.
Yeah, it's just this year, right? So it doesn't really matter for them.
Yeah, and then the Leafs gave up a first, a second, a third, and a fourth in the deal. The fourth going to Minnesota. I think the second's in like 2024.
Yeah.
And the first and the third are this year. So the Blues now have 3 first-rounders in this deep draft,
and they're not done too. Like that's the thing. Like they have Barbashev. If they decide to move one of their defensemen, they can get more. It's pretty impressive what St. Louis has done. But I'm a big Ryan O'Reilly fan. And I do really like the move for Toronto. I think they paid a lot for him.
Yeah.
Again,
they paid for his playoff experience, basically.
And like the comparison that people are making, right, is to when they traded for Foligno. And it's a similar style player, but Ryan O'Reilly has the pedigree.
And he's significantly career-wise better than Foligno.
Yeah. So I do like it for Toronto. I think they paid a lot, but I like it.
And I don't think they're done, like we talked about. Now, Toronto, do you feel like, I got my Leafs jersey on for this one because that was a big move, and I know what a O'Reilly fan you are. Do you think amongst the moves that they are gonna make, they're gonna make at least one more, but do you think they get a depth goaltender?
It would be smart. I'll say yes.
Yeah.
Given how injury prone both goalies have been.
Totally. Yeah. I wouldn't be comfortable going to the playoffs knowing you might have to start Shalgren or Wall.
Yeah. Yeah. And keep in mind too, right? Like Dubas doesn't have a contract past this year.
Yeah.
So this is essentially like his shot. I know there's all the Matthews stuff with like next year he can re-sign with a team. And they want to prove to him that they're able to get past the first round. And they're gonna play Tampa like 100%, basically. Yeah. So they have to go on essentially this year. It's his shot, and then it's to prove to Matthews that it's worth stick around long term. So
on a total side note, only based on the fact that the Lightning have gone to the Cup final 3 years in a row, I'm going to say that this is the year that they lose in the first round to Toronto.
I don't know, and I only say that because it's Toronto and because it's Tampa.
and they've always got Vasilevsky, which is kind of the big...
whoever Toronto plays against, like, or whoever Toronto plays, Tampa will always have the plus in goal. For defense, I'd say still Tampa. And for forwards, like maybe Toronto now, but I was looking at Tampa's lineup the other day and they're still pretty deep.
Mhm.
Like it's impressive, right? So I don't know, but we'll see. If the
We will
joke
see.
continues for another year, or if they finally do it. But yeah.
And then the Rangers got in on a second trade as well, like St. Louis did, and they got your boy Tyler Motte back from Ottawa. Second year at the deadline, they've acquired Tyler Motte. They paid significantly less this year. Well, I mean, I don't know much about Julien Gauthier, so but it was a seventh that becomes a sixth if they make it past the first round, I believe.
Yep.
And this Gauthier guy who's, I don't know, depth guy, young guy.
Yeah.
But I think Motte's a good playoff guy to pick up, so why not?
And they have familiarity with him, as you said. He'll join that team again, and I think he played well for the Rangers. And I love Tyler Motte as a fourth liner. I think he's a great fourth liner. So give the win to the Rangers there.
Yeah, me too. Low price, low risk. Yeah, lots of rumors, but I think those are the only trades that have come down.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see what happens in the next 10 days.
Yes.
And yeah, I thought, oh yeah, the wild card race you want to touch on real quick.
Yeah, so we've got wild card race in the West and in the East, and both are interesting. So right now, I'm gonna leave Edmonton in the West out of it because they have 68 points, and I feel like they're kind of in the clear. But who knows? Minnesota right now holds the second wild card position. They have 65 points. They've played 56 games. Okay. Calgary has also played 56 games, has 63 points, so 2 fewer points. And then the only other team that's relatively in it is Nashville, who's played 54 games, so 2 fewer games than both of those, and has 58 points. Now, both Calgary and Minnesota don't seem like they want to win hockey games. Like, they'll win one occasionally, and then they lose all these ones that they should win. Calgary definitely needs to fire Sutter. Like, it's very obvious that the team is giving up playing for him. I've seen the rumors about them firing him and hiring Boudreau, which would be very interesting as a Canucks fan. But I don't know. Who do you think gets in of those three teams?
I mean, like organizationally, the head honchos in Toronto, I mean, in Minnesota and Calgary really want to make it.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting that way. Yeah, my gut tells me Minnesota should be better, but Calgary should be better too.
Yeah.
I can see Nashville selling off some pieces.
Yeah. I find Minnesota interesting just because they did take that cap to broker the Toronto deal. I'm like, okay, well, obviously, like, as you say, they have cap problems and it's just till the end of this year. But I think they're basically saying that they're not going to go and get a rental. Like, this is the team they're going with. That's how I see it. So if they can figure out their goaltending, they should be good enough to get in, I would think. But there's been problems there. And I really think if Calgary fires Sutter, they should get something of a coach bump and be able to make it in.
Yeah.
But if they both continue on this path, maybe Nashville does just kind of stumble into a spot.
You never know. And part of me feels like Vegas will fall out. I'm always looking at Vegas being like, how are they as well as they are with their injuries and no cap space? And
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they fall into a wild card and then like one of the other three teams in the Pacific wins the Pacific because they're all trash. So like, I don't know who it is out of LA, Seattle, or Edmonton, but I could easily see that happening. But I don't think they miss only because I have no faith in those other three teams.
Yeah.
One of them has to make it.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. The more interesting one, I think, is in the East because you have two up-and-coming teams in Detroit and Buffalo. And they're both right now below the playoff line, but they have the games in hand on the other teams. So Detroit has played 55 games, has 60 points, and Buffalo's played 54 games and also has 60 points, so one fewer game. Florida's in there, also not in the playoffs. 59 games played, 62 points. Washington, I think we all can agree isn't going to make it, so I'm actually not even going to talk about them. So then it's the Islanders with 59 game played, 63 points. I don't think they make it. because of the Barzal injury, and they've played so many games. And then I guess Pittsburgh, 55 games played, 63 points, but I think they're kind of okay too. I don't know who makes it up there either. Like, do you think Buffalo comes in and actually does it? I kind of have more faith in them than Detroit, but I don't know.
I feel like I can see Pittsburgh falling out as well as the Islanders. I almost put a little bit more into Detroit because Husso's been playing a lot better.
Yeah.
And Buffalo just doesn't have a good goalie. Like,
no, they have offense.
Why they like outscore their problems.
Yeah. And then okay, this is my other question for you. If both Florida and Calgary miss, who is the bigger disappointment? Given their offseason trade, I guess.
Roster top to bottom, I would have to say Calgary.
I think so too.
Yeah. I think Florida has bigger names, but overall top to bottom, I don't think they're as good of a team. And I think Bobrovsky and Knight aren't as good as Markstrom and Vlad are, which is weird.
Theory, yeah.
But this year, Markstrom and Vlad are both actually pretty terrible. So
yeah. No, I agree only because I think that Florida knew in that trade when they gave up like Huberdeau and Weegar specifically that they weren't going to be as good next year with getting Kachuk, but in the long run it would be better because you weren't giving Huberdeau basically that long-term deal. You're giving it to the number player, which I think was smart. Like I think it was smart for them. So I think Calgary only because they went all in and they picked up Kadri. They're like, we're not going to let these guys who left us, make us a weaker team. And yeah, in theory, their team should be good. And I do think 90% of this is coaching. I think if they switch the coach, they'll be a lot better. Obviously, Markstrom is concerning, but I just think like Huberdeau, there's no way, like he has less points than Besser this year. There's no way he does that again. Not for a different coach. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's been an odd year. I think did we both have Calgary winning the Pacific at the beginning of the year? Yeah. What a funny world we live in. Well, I think we should do another one maybe just post trade deadline.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Well, I think you got anything else you want to throw in there?
I think that's everything.
Okay. Well, this has been episode number 99, the penultimate pre-century episode of Hockey Talk on the Rock. That's Laura. I'm Keith. Thanks for listening.